Let's call this meeting to order. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance because we need to.
Because I might have gotten comments since the last time.
Yeah, this is loud.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oops. All right. First order of business is the approval of the meeting minutes from the April 23rd meeting. And there were some corrections that were suggested and made by Lisa. So I would be looking for any other comments or acceptance of these minutes as correct.
I move we accept them.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, second order of business is the approval of tax collector suspense list. I will remind the board members that we do this every year. Important to know that we're not writing these off, we're simply moving them from one list to another. They're still collectible to the extent that they can't ever be collected, they will be. The motor vehicle taxes do not allow someone to register a vehicle that's on this list. Not that we should wait for all this money to come in, but it's something we do every year, and it's a necessary step we take. So I would be looking for a motion to accept the tax collector suspense list. So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Main order of business tonight is to set the mill rate for the 2019-2020 fiscal year. We recommended these budgets to referendum at our April 23rd meeting, and I'm pleased to announce that all four of the questions on the ballot passed. And I will, as part of this, I think have to put the numbers in the minutes, right? Do we or not?
We could, if you'd like to.
I don't seem like in the past we read them, but I will read them. All right. Question number one, which is the Board of Finance recommended budget for the Board of Selectmen. 636 votes in favor, 387 no. The Board of Ed budget, 696 votes for, 331 no. The Sewer Use Fund, Residential Rental Properties, Simsbury Farm Special Programs, Non-Public Schools, Debt Retirement, Capital, and Capital Non-Recurring Budgets, 736 yes, 290 no. And the one capital project that was on the budget, the partial roof replacement at Simsbury High School, 806 votes yes, 220 votes no. So having said that, we need to then consider the setting the mill rate. I once again will remind that there was discussion last year about whether we had discretion to change our discussion around this. I think it was Bob DiCrescenzo's view that if we, the referendum, once it went to referendum, that we would set this. I think the question that is presented in the agenda item that was sent out in advance is if we set the mill rate as we've proposed, which is at 37.32, it requires that there either be a transfer from fund balance to help with the mill rate, or we increase the assumption for the revenue collection rate from 98.5 to 99. We talked about this at some length on April 23rd, and we didn't actually make a decision at that meeting, so tonight we need to. The recommendation of the staff is that we increase the revenue collection rate to 99 based on some conversations and advice from bond counsel and others, and so I would be looking for a motion to set the mill rate at 37.32 by increasing the assumption for the collection rate to 99%.
I'll move that.
Need a second?
Discussion?
Discussion?
Or
Sure.
second.
Yeah.
No, again, my whole thing is that we're not setting precedent here, and it's not on a forward-going basis that it'll continue to be at 99, but that we're doing it this year really in light of the feedback that we heard from Maria that if there was going to be any changing, that the credit agencies tend to not focus so much on the collection rate as opposed to the percentage of the fund to the overall budget.
And I want to echo and also just confirm on the record, Maria, when you spoke with the rating agencies, there would be no problem going back to 88.5 next year if you so choose.
98.
I mean 98. Yes, thank you.
Like it's a vacation.
Sure, trouble.
When we spoke with bond consultants about this, they had said that using money out of general fund reserves to essentially offset the mill rate, pay for operating expenses is looked at less favorably than if you were to adjust the collection rate. And that if they do see routine, mill rate, relief coming out of general fund reserves, again, looked at less favorably than adjusting the collection rate.
So just to confirm, we're not setting a precedent that we can't change next year. Is that correct?
Right, and
Okay.
if you want to use 98, 98 and a half, 99, that's absolutely, within policy purview.
Okay, so we have a motion, and we're still looking for a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? Making sure that all have been heard.
Can we, I guess we'll get into it, but can we show what the fund balance percentage of the budget would be at the 99? Just
That's what we've done. So Amy has up. Amy, will you be sure that we're on the page that increases the collection rate to 99 from 98.5?
Amy, did you hear it?
No.
All right, go to the page that has the
They want to see
collection.
the fund balance percentage.
Go to the page that has the what?
So the projected fund balance at the end of June 2020 as a percent of the expense budget using 99% as the collection rate.
Amy, so go 99% of the collection rate?
Yeah.
It's already set at 99%,
Okay.
so that's the fund balance.
At the end of
this is at
Yes, that's still
99.5.
50.
So, yeah, just to refresh everybody's memory, there are two columns here. The one on the left, refresh my memory.
Is 90 is either 99 or 98.
So it would be 14.9%, assuming that we collected 99% in the current fiscal year and the next fiscal year. Correct? 14.9%.
That's at a 99.5 collection rate based on what this says here.
99.5, no, it says 99. If you scroll down.
Amy, is that
Did you have the same number?
14.9%, 99% collection rate this year end?
Yeah, hold on a
Fiscal year
second.
20.
Zoom in.
So this would be the 98.5% collection rate. Well, this is the actual rate at 99.5. And this is at the 99.5. But if we do 99, this is how much is going into fund balance. If we did 98.5, this number is basically double.
And next year, if you go back to 98.5, that's the tax increase.
Yes.
Or it limits the budget increase.
Correct.
Right,
Or we have grand list growth,
right.
which we are projected to have next year.
Never enough.
Plenty of things to.
All right, so Amy, will you just answer the question at 99% assumed collection rate for both the fiscal 19 year we're in and for the fiscal year that we're about to approve, what will the fund balance projected to be at June of '20 as a percentage of the 1920 budget?
Did you get that?
No,
Wants to see projected fund balance of assuming 99% collection rate for this current year and next year.
I can barely hear you. Can you speak louder?
Yeah. Where's she coming from? Where am I talking to? Well, they want to see what it would be projected fund balance if they do, if we assume 99% collection rate for this year and for fiscal year 20.
Okay.
That's it.
She's just changing the percentage.
Should we do it that fast?
Should be about 14.
It's half a point.
All right, is that 99?
So 14.5.
14.5 something, right? 13. Yeah.
Does-
Okay. All right.
Just a question, that does not include the building fees that we are anticipating this spring, right?
Does that include the building permit fees we're expecting this spring? I don't think so.
No.
So it will be higher than that.
Yeah. Okay.
We're still several hundred thousand over budget
Right.
right now.
And we haven't even hit peak season.
Right.
Great. Thank you.
All right. So we have a motion and a second, and we still have discussion open. Last call for discussion.
Right, one final. So I would just say for next year, because we are expecting grand list growth, and I do appreciate Sean pointing that out, that grand list growth is not going to, from my perspective, should not be assumed to be used to offset budgets, but for this adjustment, if we go back to 99.5 or 98.5. So just a caution there.
Which we'll be more than willing to discuss or look forward to
Next
discussing
year.
at our tri-board meeting to be held late this year. Start this all over again.
There you go.
So we have a motion and a second. And I'll ask one more time if there's any further discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I really am hesitant to play around with the tax collection rate and have things go up and down. I'd much rather, we've got more than adequate reserves to even buffer the rating agency looking at us. I'd rather take it out now and be clean and look at it again next year. I don't like counting our chickens or eggs, whatever they are, before they're hatched in terms of grand list growth and building permits. So we have, this time next year, we would have a solid number about what those were.
But the reality is that we've always collected more than what our assumption has been. So we've always been taxing people more than we need to. So
Yeah.
I'm very happy to see it go up as an assumption, because I think it's a more accurate depiction of reality, and I don't think we need to continue to be adding more to the reserves, because there's plenty in there already. So I think this actually is favorable to the taxpayers, and that's a good thing. And I'd rather make it a decision once than have to every year vote to take money out of reserves. I mean, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. It is the same thing, but it has a different feel to it if you make the decision once, and this is your assumption, versus reaching into reserves. And I agree with what Maria said. If you're, taking money out of reserves, it feels different to people who are looking at it. It's like, oh, you didn't balance your budget.
I disagree. I mean, there's $1 million charge from the health insurance plan, right? That's why the reserves are there to kind of take care of the extraordinary items that may pop up. So
Yeah.
I tend to agree with more. I mean, I don't have an objection to changing it, but I just think the timing, I don't like the timing of changing it during the budget season.
What else would you do?
Well, I just think it'd be a more lengthy of a discussion during the course of the year.
Because there still will be left,
So-
I mean, even
Yeah.
at 99%, we still are going to be collecting more than we're assuming. So we'll still be replenishing the reserves.
So what's interesting about this discussion is that we're not arguing about what the mill rate should be or how much we should
Right.
collect or how much we're gonna spend. That's already been
It's all about
decided.
assumptions.
What we're discussing is what we think the definition should be of the fund balance and how we calculate it. And in the past, under my tenure and when Sean Kimball was here, we would leave the collection rate at 98.5, and then for calculations like the one Amy just did for us, we would assume we would make a $500,000 profit, if you will. I know that's a dirty word in fund accounting, but that we would collect more than we, and that would help the fund balance. So when we calculated the fund balance as a percentage, it was a higher percentage, and we felt better about what we were taxing and spending. So to me, this really is an optical discussion. I know Sean's position relative to what the tax increase will be. I don't think I completely agree with him on that. I think we have I think the discipline of looking at where our fund balance is impacts, in my thinking, how much we should tax and how we get back to how much we should tax and what the fund balance as a percentage of the expenditures is arithmetic. But it's an important consideration when we set the mill rate and how much we tax. So I'm almost indifferent about these two things, but I do think that if we do move the collection rate up to 99% this year, that although it isn't a precedent, we'll have to bend over backwards to explain why we're going back to 98.5 next year, if we want to do that. And we'll always have the
We won't
option
wanna
not.
do it.
No. We'll always have the option to use the fund balance or not. And we're not talking about a lot of money here, but that's not a reason to do it one way or the other. So, just to keep things moving here, we have a motion and a lot of discussion. And a second. I'm sensing that the consensus has changed. But if we vote on this, so the motion is to use the 99% collection rate. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say aye, or nay. Nay.
Nay.
So we have 4 votes against, 2 for.
Whoa, that was a quick change.
No, that was what the discussion, the motion was on the table, we needed to vote on it. So the alternative motion that would be made would be to use the $420,000
It's right in.
use of fund balance for mill rate relief. Same mill rate, same expense budget, same resulting lower fund balance though.
It would be move effective May 14th, 2019 to set the mill rate for fiscal year 2019-20 at 37.32 mils, utilizing a collection rate of 98.5% and fund balance reserves of 420.
All right,
I'll move that.
someone want to second that?
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded that we set the mill rate by applying $420,000 to the general reserve designated as mill rate relief for the fiscal year 1920. We'll read the resolution when we make it. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? The motion passes. All right? Great. Great that we decided. Not that I got it. It's always
Kind of
that
6
way.
of one, half of the other.
Exactly.
They're going to wind up next year doing the same thing
We will.
every year.
That's
So you might as well just,
All right.
bite the bullet.
Yes. All right.
No, 90.
What do we need to do to effectuate that resolution-wise, Maria or Melissa? Have we, it's just been moved and seconded, and we don't have to read any of this stuff in?
Oh, no.
Thank you.
Okay,
Rob, point of order?
yeah.
Because this is post-budget, does this require a motion from the Board of Selectmen?
No.
No. No, we're doing the transfer of the 420 from reserves,
Oh, not tonight.
but it will require at some point, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay,
Let's be sure that gets done, because I think we were at this very point
precisely.
1 year ago, and
It didn't get.
it didn't get done right. All right?
We'll make a note of that.
Okay. All right. Next order of business is the Retirement Plan Subcommittee appointment. Staff has prepared an agenda submission item, moving to appoint Phil Schultz to the Retirement Plan Subcommittee as a community member at large for a 3-year term to expire on May 13, 2022. This is necessitated by the revisions made in the memorandum of understanding. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And Phil has been on this board for
A
long time?
2008.
and is
Highly respected.
highly respected and eminently qualified. So I would be looking for a motion to appoint Phil as outlined in these conditions.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Great. I think that's the order of business for tonight. Our next regularly scheduled meeting is June 18th, and I would be looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.